with Jon Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, everybody? Jon Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Playbook Show. It is Monday. We got 5 games here on the main slate, starting at 7 o'clock, taking us all the way through the 10:30 late night hammer matchup between the Thunder and the Lakers. James, my buddy, how we doing?
Doing well. Baseball, basketball all day today, John.
Yeah.
So nothing better than that. Have some playoff football today. Obviously you and I are here live doing this live stream. Salute to everybody in the chat. Everybody. 5 games. Look, there could be a lot of potential for things to play out differently, but oh my gosh, if the slate starts the way that, if everybody's ruled in, John, there's going to be some ugly value that people are just going to close their eyes and hope to hit on, because it is a barren wasteland. Because Jaylen Brown was ruled out.
Right.
But the last time we saw this, they started 6K Al Horford. So that kills any value. Yeah. And everyone's gravitating to Sam Hauser. But you and I talked about it. Sam Hauser played 18 minutes. And it was Peyton Pritchard. And everyone's playing Utah. Everyone. Utah. There's 9 guys. And this is something we talk about Utah all the time. Double-digit ownership today. Everyone playing Keontae. There's just not value unless we start getting some news flowing in. So hopefully that comes along the wire during our show. The most prominent news is the 10:30 game, which is, of course, very unfortunate for us.
It's not keeping
I sent
people
to
off
you earlier. It's not. I did send to you earlier. The line opened -1 for the Lakers, and I know the sports books have to, cover their asses in case SGA were to sit there. Yeah. But the line's now moved in favor of OKC. OKC is now -1.5, which is a smash button to begin with. -1.5, regardless for OKC. But I'm starting to think D'Angelo Russell midday downgrade, right? So we've seen that now, and I've told you my theory. I think Anthony Davis is all but out.
Yeah.
This game is being listed questionable. So there's a lot of news to still break. We've really only gotten the Jaylen Brown stuff thus far. So it'll be interesting to see how the slate ends up, because again, as it currently stands, a whole lot of nothing going on. There's just questionables upon questionables.
We talked about ownership last night, and you mentioned maybe Toronto side of things here. I'm looking at a rostership update from this morning that you posted in there, Thad Young getting 27% tonight, right? He played 14 minutes the other day. We don't know what his role is going to be here in this game. Dennis Smith Jr., somebody we talked about.
Yeah.
Second highest drafted player on the slate. I mean,
that one was a little that one was.
So roster builds will be interesting today for sure. Again, it is just 5 games, so probably have a little bit of a quicker show here today for everybody. Going over some of the spreads that we're looking at. 222 right now. Chicago, Cleveland. Cleveland's given 4 in that game. Miami, Brooklyn. Brooklyn give it a point. 220.5 game total in that one. Boston, Toronto. Toronto getting 6.5. That total's down to 238.5, open to 242. Pacers, Jazz, 245.5. Utah giving 7. And then OKC versus LA. Lakers getting 1. Open as a 1-point favorite. Now a 1-point road dog. 238.5 game total there in that one here today. So, yes, we mentioned the late night hammer game. 10:30 has a lot of news. Your lineup builds probably need to include some exposure to that game simply for pivoting and maneuvering, and you're going to want exposure to those games if guys are ruled in or out. So we talk about that all the time, but on smaller slates, you do get concentrated rostership and things of the like. Let's just get into it here, James. And guys, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. We're more than happy to help you out here today. Point guard position. SGA is 10-2. Obviously, if he is in, that is a smash spot price. We would love that price. We would love SGA at $10,200. The problem being is if you plug him into your lineup and he doesn't play, you now have $10,200 to figure out your maneuver. That would likely be a LeBron James or an Anthony Davis, assuming one of them are in. Obviously, AD is a bit more expensive than SGA here. So you'd also have to lock them into your util spot because they play completely different positions. So, obviously, if you don't leave yourself that room and SGA gets ruled out, well, now you're pivoting down to a like $6,900 Jalen Williams and there's $4,000 left over. And that's just a misuse of salary for your lineup. So obviously, it's a great spot for him if you can get him in there, match up, all of that. The cover of the show, however, Donovan Mitchell. For obvious reasons here. We are loving Mitch when he's by himself. 77 fantasy points, showcasing for the France-Paris crowd out there. 41 minutes, 30 shot attempts in that game. But we know what he's going to be like, right? Could have no Max Strus. I don't know if we got official word on him or not yet for today. But if he is out, you can assume there'll be more shot attempts potentially going his way. $9,800 is a great price point. I know it's a big pace down spot going up against Chicago here, but there's a reason why this morning we get Donovan Mitchell as our favorite play. And at his price point, he's still pretty much right there for us.
Yeah, and it's not even that big of a pace down spot because they're both so slow.
Sure.
They both just play. Cleveland's right there. They're like 24th over the last 10 days, or last 10 games, rather. It's hard not to like both the top options. John, this is a perfect example today why we want the 10:30 game on the slate, right? Like this is to a T why you and I have like not loved the removal of the late night hammer from slates on a night-to-night basis, because this is one of those slates where, hey, low-owned SGA, LeBron, or AD, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like potentially in the late night hammer, or D'Angelo Russell with the downgrade. Like there is a ton of news in that late night window. Like this is just wanted to add that to like the SGA discussion you started with. But love Donovan Mitchell. Really in any capacity. He's actually been better with Max Strus on the floor this year, and I do think that has to do with spacing. Now, Sam Merrill has been pretty good spacing the floor himself, so the drop off, I'm sure like realistically, it's a very small sample when you remove 3 starters off the floor, including Garland and Mobley, but almost 1.4 fantasy points per minute without Garland and Mobley on the season for Mitchell, over a 30% usage rate. So, really, really hard not to get there. And I think the best thing about Donovan Mitchell, basically since returning from injury, in any competitive game, he's playing 40 minutes. So, we ask our stars to play 40 minutes. He's playing 40 this in every competitive game. So if this game stays close, 40 minutes, Donovan Mitchell, potentially the highest ceiling on this. I mean, he has 70 actual points.
Right. Obviously, Jaylen Brown being ruled out, Jason Tatum is where we're going to be, pretty active. He's the cover of your playbook, but Derek White, Drew Holiday, any interest for the Celtics guards in this 7K range?
Yeah, so I think this is really interesting, right? Because Derek White has, as everyone knows, I love Derek White. I love Derek White. I've made it very known. Derek White is clearly in a rut, right? Like this is easily the worst stretch of Derek White's season, like, bar none, not even close. He still has the biggest usage bump on the team when Jaylen Brown's off the floor. He still is second on the team in terms of fantasy points per minute when Jaylen Brown's off the floor. So, like, I really like Derek White. It's a really good spot. Toronto, we talked about on the show last night, is top 10 in pace over the last 10 games. So is Boston, by the way. This is both teams in top 10, which is why when you and I saw the total, 240 it opened at. Kind of surprising to see in like traditional Boston Toronto setting, but like with the roster reconstruction on one side and the way Boston's playing fast, that's great news. It's like perfectly fine getting to Derek White, perfectly fine getting to a cheaper Drew Holiday, who really only has big games when somebody is out, right? Like when somebody's out, Drew Holiday has a ceiling. He's right around a fantasy point per minute. Now, Derek White is ahead of that, but, Derek White's not playing well. So I like both. I'm okay getting to either. I'm not prioritizing necessarily either. If I had to prioritize one, the numbers tell me to prioritize Derek White. Recent production does
I
not.
would say
right?
that Derek White's recent production also a direct correlation to Jaylen Brown's recent production, where that man has gone for 30 actual and for the last 5 games. There's not shot attempts available when Jaylen Brown is playing like the highest priced player in the NBA. So,
Fair.
I do think there could be a little bit of a bounce back spot here for Derek White. I do like him in tournaments for sure. What about the rest of this tier? There is Kobe White, there's Austin Reeves, there's Emmanuel Quickly, D'Angelo Russell, as you mentioned, was a midday downgrade. Giddy. I know you love the Utah guys, so we'll get to them. But what's your overall thought on this tier?
My thought is kind of just mediocre. I mean, obviously, either Laker point guard is interesting if Anthony Davis sits, right? Like if Russell plays, he had 40 actual the other day, 39 actual the other day without LeBron. So Russell is interesting. We know he can score. If Russell and Davis sat, or just Russell, I mean, Reeves is interesting at 71 because he's going to operate as their lead point guard. If everyone's in for the Lakers, like Reeves and Russell, no thanks on either. Kobe White, fine. He's now one of 4 Bulls you can get to in the 7K tier. Like, good luck picking and choosing which of the 4 are going to have a good night. Vucevic, technically, per fantasy point per position, has the best matchup. But again, it's just Cleveland's a good defensive team in their own regard. So, can't get to McConnell at 7K in my opinion. There was some downgrades that we could talk about in Indiana today. Sure. Bruce Brown and Aaron Nesmith both listed questionable, which maybe benefits TJ McConnell a little bit.
He'll still play Mather in 18 minutes somehow.
They will still probably find a way to not play Ben Mathurin, right? Quickly, in tournaments, he's fine. Giddey, obviously, one of the guys we're going to pivot to if there's no SGA, but I'm not going to prioritize Josh Giddey.
He's such a great tournament dart, right?
He is a good tournament dart. I'm just not prioritizing him, right? He has a ceiling. I just would get to Colin Sexton instead, who of all the Utah guys not getting any ownership. And I understand the trepidation when it comes to his minutes. I was there too. I was saying it to you. Chris Dunn was taking minutes away from him. And then the last 2 games, that hasn't really been the case. The Toronto game was a 30-point win that they didn't need him. And then he balled out in that Lakers game and just didn't come off the floor. And look what happens. Had foul trouble and played through it in 27, 5, and 4. He is actually second on the team in fantasy points per minute, ahead of Jordan Clarkson, who's the highest owned Utah Jazz play of the day. For $300 cheaper, Colin Sexton is. And if he's going to play over Chris Dunn in a game that they're going to need offense to keep up with Indiana, these are number 1 and number 2 in pace over the last 10 games. Indiana 1, Utah number 2. Then Colin Sexton at low ownership is a really good tournament play when you consider 39, 34, 35, 40 fantasy points in 4 of the last 5. The one game, a blowout win against Milwaukee where he plays 18 minutes and has 27 fantasy points, right? It's
I think the blowouts have a lot to do with the minutes, possibly even there. So
agreed. So I'm ultra interested in Colin Sexton, and I play Jordan Clarkson a lot, and we both play Jordan Clarkson a lot. This would be one of those spots where there's probably going to end up being value plays that everyone just plays, like Hauser, Pritchard, Keontae George, Thaddeus Young,
Dennis Smith Jr.
If that's going to be the case, Dennis Smith Jr. If that's going to be the case, and I need to differentiate, I'll just play Colin Sexton over Jordan Clarkson and call it there, right? That's the way I would differentiate in the best game environment on the board.
Let's get to the value tier because George, Smith, and Pritchard are all basically within a couple $100 of each other, all getting some love here. If you're prioritizing Keontae George, Dennis Smith Jr., Peyton Pritchard tonight, How are you ranking them?
So 2 of them made my playbook and 1 of them didn't. I do not have Dennis Smith in the playbook. Not that I don't obviously understand what Dennis Smith Jr. can be, but dude, we talked about it. Like, I know that he's played 20 minutes in 4 straight games, and I know in that span he's had 44 and 34 fantasy points, and that's probably a higher ceiling than either Keontae George and Peyton Pritchard can have. But like, Brooklyn just has so many players, dude. They just have like Cam Thomas could come out and flamethrow. Lonnie Walker could come out and flamethrow. Mikal Bridges can come out and flamethrow. What if Spencer Dinwiddie plays well?
Yeah.
Then where are the minutes? Then where are the minutes coming from for Dennis Smith? Like big minutes, right? Like we saw the Pritchard role without Jaylen Brown, really solid mid-20s. We've now seen Keontae George 24 and 27 minutes the last 2 games. Again, overplaying Chris Dunn and Fontecchio. Like they're just going like 3 guards, basically. Spacing the floor, 3 guards, Lauri Markkanen. Good luck guarding us, right? Like good luck trying to guard us. That's what Indiana does. So, like, why would that change, right? So, if I had to rank them, I would probably go George, Pritchard, Dennis Smith. Not that I don't like Dennis Smith, but you asked me to rank them, and that's just where I.
Anybody else here, point guard?
No, I don't think so. I don't like Kyle Lowry's doubtful, but even in that scenario,
no Butler, right? Or
no, Butler's questionable. He was upgraded to questionable. Okay. There was no Kevin Love, no Kyle Lowry. No Kevin Love, no Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, okay.
So like that didn't even benefit Josh Richardson the other day. Like mid-20s minutes is probably his ceiling with Tyler Hero back. So that's probably.
Shooting guard position here. Then you got Hero at 82. You have Mikal Bridges at 73. We got Zach LaVine at $7,300. How are you breaking down the top half of shooting guard tonight?
I haven't gotten to Bridges. Not that I don't like getting to Bridges. But like if that's where you end up, that's where you end up, and I'm sure you'll be like satisfied with it. I mean, he plays monster minutes, 39, 44, 39, 36 over the last 4 games. Just very up and down production depending on like how the rest of the team is really going. I think Tyler Hero is really, really interesting if Jimmy does sit, because you already have like guys rolled out from Miami. Jaquez is already out. Obviously Lowry we just talked about, and Kevin Love. And then it's just like Hero and Bam all over again, right? Like that's going to be, and Brooklyn's been a bottom 10 defense in the league over the last 10 games. So Hero could be really interesting. LaVine, tournament dart, no idea how to like project the Bulls in general, just given everything that they've really been doing. I mean, it's so up and down with every single one of them. They've all taken
turns, basically.
Dude, but like the one constant has been DeMar DeRozan shot attempts. Death taxes DeMar DeRozan getting his shots. Nothing else has been consistent. Right. DeMar DeRozan's shots have. So if you want to get to LaVine in the tournament, he got small forward back. That's good. Everyone's playing Jordan Clarkson. Can't fault you for playing Jordan Clarkson. Guy's a bucket, takes a lot of shots, been really consistent with the minutes, 30 plus in 5 straight games. So Clarkson is the field's favorite of this group. I don't blame anybody for getting to Jordan Clarkson over the rest of everybody. I just talked to you about the Sexton pivot. Yeah. If you wanted to explore that route, is I think a very viable one.
Does the Clarkson play feel maybe a little overvalued though? I mean, given the minutes, right? Obviously, some of these have been blowouts, but I mean, at $6,700 to get 5x return, you're looking at 33, 34 fantasy points. It's not like he's killing that production here. Do you think that there's a valuable pivot off of him, or are you just okay with the floor and then a hope for the ceiling in a matchup against the Pacers?
Well, I think the pivot is Sexton.
Sure.
Just on his team, right? Like $300 cheaper, 1/3 the ownership. Obviously, Mathurin would also be a pivot if we get word that Bruce Brown or Aaron Nesmith or both are out. And I wrote Bruce Brown in the playbook up before he got downgraded. So, like, I love Bruce Brown as well. So, I think there's pivots. Karis LeVert would be someone really interesting, especially if Max Strus were to sit. I think the Max Strus questionable tag is interesting because they haven't played in 4 days, right? Like he played 7 minutes and then hasn't played in 4
Right.
days, and it's apparently just like this little knee tweak or knee soreness, and you're out for 4 days. Like that's not the
Right.
best news in the world. So I could see him sitting Levert. I think there's plenty of pivots off. To your point, like I mean, this is the best game environment on the
Agreed.
board. So like you get to Jordan Clarkson, there's a chance he scores 40 actual, and you're like, oh well, that sucks. I don't have him because that's in the
Right.
that's in the outcomes. But like to your point, he's also the chalkiest of the group. There's also Lauri Markkanen, who has 450 bombs in his last 6
Right.
games, and there's Colin Sexton, who is being as productive and is a starter, right? So I don't disagree. I think Clarkson is a great play, but there's pivots pretty much up and down the
We
board.
didn't talk Dennis Schroeder, obviously. We did just get an update for roster shape here, so we'll obviously get that loaded up. But Schroeder is still sitting up over 20%. RJ Barrett at 22%. Your new highest rostered player is Sam Hauser at almost 40%. 40%.
I know.
But Thad Young still getting 20%. So it kind of alluded to some of these Toronto guys here. Where are you with RJ Barrett and just kind of all of the wings of Toronto tonight?
You can get there if you want. The Schroeder price tag is the only thing that's drawing people there, right? Like I shouldn't say the only thing, because realistically, you could see Toronto go small tonight and play, depending on what Boston does. You can see Siakam at the 5, and that's Schroeder coming onto the floor, right? Anytime you see Siakam on the 5 in this lineup, it's either Schroeder or Trent.
Yeah.
It's one of the two. Schroeder's played, except the blowout in Utah, basically 30 minutes in every game since the acquisition of the new pieces. So the price is really good for Dennis Schroeder. I would say that's probably the most likely scenario I'd get to. Revenge narrative for the ex-Boston Celtic great.
He had to sign with them after he declined his Lakers deal. One of the worst decisions a human has ever made. Maybe him and Nerlens Noel.
That was a very silly decision.
Nerlens Noel also made a pretty...
Yes. That's number one. Nerlens Noel with a bullet. That is true.
Turning down the contract that he was given, and he basically was out of the league shortly after that.
I completely forgot about the Nerlens Noel contract turn down, but wow, what a freaking! And then he sued. Didn't he? He sued later on. I don't know if it was the same franchise, but he sued somebody, and I think he won the suit and won a bunch of money. So, good for Nerlens Noel. Albert, welcome aboard. You're one of a few on the ship today.
Love it.
Shout out to football.
Where else are we on a shooting guard?
I mean, I will be a little bit more interested in Nembhard if Bruce Brown were to sit. I do feel like he has a longer leash if there's no Bruce Brown, because Bruce Brown's been doing a lot of the ball handling. It was good to see Nembhard 29 minutes in that Denver game. So if there's no Bruce Brown, I'd get to Nembhard here. You can always play Cam Thomas in tournaments. If Jimmy sits, I would go back to the Duncan Robinson well.
Okay. 3
of the last 4 games over 30 fantasy points. But that's contingent for me if Jimmy were to sit. You play Sam Merrill. You can play Sam Merrill if Max Strus were to sit. Assume Merrill starts because they like bringing Karis LeVert off the bench. But there's really nothing else. You could play Gary Trent if you want at 43, but he's kind of, not playing all that much. And then if you're in that late night window and SGA were to be ruled out, which again, with the way the line's moving, seemingly SGA is going to play. That's what it looks like to me. But if he were to sit, Cason Wallace and Isaiah Joe are both under 4K. You can play both of those guys.
Okay. Moving on over to small forward. Again, guys with power forward, small forward eligibility, but Jason Tatum's right there, $9,700.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing about spending up today in general, and this is just me talking out loud, is getting comfortable with the value plays that are on board, right? That's the only thing. And like you might not have a problem with that. OKC Lakers, like if Davis sits, like Hachimura and Christian Wood and Jared Vanderbilt are all options there. So it might not matter ultimately, but Tatum and LeBron are both elite plays. LeBron's numbers don't really move without Davis. Like they're just good regardless. So if you want to play LeBron, you certainly can. He's 1.4 fantasy points per minute with or without Anthony Davis. Tatum is, again, you mentioned cover my playbook. He gets the second biggest usage bump behind Derek White, nearly 6% to 36% usage rate. Sans Jaylen Brown this year, 1.4 fantasy points per minute. And you and I have talked about it a lot. Not that Jason Tatum had a bad like stretch earlier in the year. Like it was like 26, 7, and 4. But whatever he's been on lately, I want some of. Like he has been the MVP caliber player that he was at the start of last year. I mean, he was as good as anybody in the league at the beginning of last year. And right now he's been as good as anybody in the league in current form. So it's really hard not to get to Jason Tatum at 9,700 because again, we've been paying 10K for Jason Tatum like pretty consistently again. And for whatever reason, I think the algorithm baked in the Milwaukee game where he only plays a half, and then baked in Houston where he didn't play the fourth quarter. He has 50 fantasy points in 30 minutes. Like that's another 50 bomb from Jason Tatum that we fell short of because of blowout, right? Like, dude, he's just been killing everything. So as long as this game stays competitive, it wouldn't surprise me to see Jason Tatum as the highest scorer.
Sure. Lauri Markkanen's down here is getting a little under 20% rostership here tonight. Again, a guy that's coming off of 55 fantasy points is giving you 56, 51, 48, and these are in some blowout games. Spots of spots tonight for Lauri Markkanen here, right?
Yes, spots of spots for sure. 50 plus fantasy points in 3 of his last 5, 48 plus in 4 of his last 5. The one game, 38.7 fantasy points in a game where he played 29 minutes in a 30-point win. And he is coming off, I mean, 1 rebound shy of 5 straight double-doubles in back-to-back games, right? Like he's had a lot of like big time rebounding performances. And this definitely coincides with like their space the floor guard lineup that they're just running. Like they're running just tons of guards, taking Walker Kessler off the floor, as you alluded to earlier. Like Fontecchio's not really, Fontecchio's not really playing. They're playing John Collins a bunch. Like they need someone to rebound. So, insert Lauri Markkanen there. It's a great spot for him. There's a massive ceiling potential here for Lauri. Like we've been getting 50 bombs. Like we could get a 60 bomb here. And it really,
we always talk about finding value, right? To get 5X at $8,400, it's 42 fantasy points. That's something that he's been giving us pretty consistently as long as he's played over 30 minutes most of the games here. Now you have the Pacers. So I'm with you. Obviously it is a 7-point spread and Indiana may now be without 2 more of their rotational players. So that, could impact it, but we also think some of the guys they don't play are really good. So if they have to now give Ben Mathurin 30 minutes, maybe.
Oh no, poor Indiana. Poor Indiana.
Exactly. So we'll see what happens there. Where are you on buckets? If he's active tonight, $8,100.
Moving on.
Moving on. Okay.
No, none, zero, zilch.
We talked about this last night. Even if SGA plays, like Jalen Williams is a guy I'm plugging into lineups. I feel like.
Yeah, he's very good. He's very consistent. The minutes, the production, really just everything you'd want. He's over fantasy point per minute. The Lakers, really good matchup for OKC. This is another 2 top 10 pace teams over the last 10 games. Lakers bottom 10 defensively. Dream spot for the Thunder, which is why like we both started kind of talking about at the beginning of the show. Like this is why we want this game to be like we want the late night window to be on a slate because now we can add or get pieces of this game in our lineup and pivot where we need to because this is the game that really has all the news we need. Like SGA seems like he's trending towards playing, but you don't know that front leg of a back-to-back for OKC. Lakers have Davis questionable, despite Davis being probable every single slate for the last however many slates randomly pops as questionable. I told you, I don't like that. I think this is a Davis rest spot.
Yep.
D'Angelo gets the midday downgrade with an illness. That's never good. A midday downgrade with illness is death sentence, right? Like that's not.
I wish we tracked it, but I would imagine the majority of midday downgrades, a guy does not play.
Yeah. And we saw that. What was it yesterday? Ivica Zubac was that midday downgrade. They added him to the starting lineup and then scratched him immediately.
Mhm.
Like even when they like are ruled in, they're then immediately ruled out. So especially, I feel like sometimes when they play through, I feel like it's like soreness or
Right.
whatever. But like illness, like if they're feeling sick, you're feeling sick, right? Like you're just not like non-COVID illness, but who knows what that non-COVID illness.
Right.
What if he has the shits?
Never
What
know.
if he's throwing up, right? Like he's not playing. He's not gonna
Nope.
why would he? So I lost my train of thought. Jalen Williams. So yeah, I love having the idea of Jalen Williams in my lineup, just with potential exposure with no SGA, and just that's probably the second best game on the board after Indiana Utah.
I agree. Again, guys, we have discussed already as we worked our way down. Karis LeVert, we are in on Max Strus, officially game time decision tonight. You're okay with the Toronto plays. Mathurin, we won't know. It's 9:00 start, but if there was a spot for him to play more minutes, it would be with Brown and Neesmith out, you would assume. So tournament dart for him. Duncan Robinson's down here at $5,800. Buddy Hield is $57. Torian Prince, Lou Dort. Like, what's our feelings here?
Basically the guys you just alluded to. Mathurin in tournaments, Duncan Robinson in tournaments if there's no Butler. I probably don't play Duncan Robinson if Butler plays, but 5,800 is fine if he sits. Buddy Hield probably starts again. The minutes would definitely be secure without Neesmith and Bruce Brown. I think they would just be forced to keep Buddy on the Florida space. I do think Caruso is a little bit interesting. Now, 5 blocks and steals is hard to repeat, but he's done it a couple times recently. We know that's what his ace in the hole is defensively. So 52 for Caruso is fine against Cleveland. He'll have the Donovan Mitchell assignment. Prince, last piece in type of play. Same thing with Lou Dort. I do think we should talk about the Hauser piece because he's $3,900 and he's probably not going to start unless Boston's like, you know what, we don't need to double big today because what Toronto has. Yeah. How much exposure would you have to Sam Hauser?
20% if I was making 10 lineups, two lineups, Sam Hauser. I mean, I like that he is much cheaper than he had been. He was like $5K, right? Mid 4K is like, now he's $3,900. I can live with Sam Hauser at $3,900 here because we assume they're going to go double big, but they may. Last time it happened, that's what they did for sure. But I mean, Toronto, their lineup, maybe it matches up better to have Sam Hauser out there more, than going Horford, Porzingis, right? So, we'll see. We'll see how it works out. But I like him a lot better at 39 than when he was 45, 46, 5K. Then Isaiah Joe's down here as well. We've talked throwing some darts down there. Mm-hmm. Power forward position. Anthony Davis is the top guy, as we mentioned, but you're questioning his availability given his being listed as questionable, not probable, which is certainly fair to say. Obviously, LeBron James would be an elite play if he ends up being ruled out. Where are you on like Siakam, DeMar DeRozan, Porzingis in this range as well?
Siakam I'm indifferent about. I like the price. I love Porzingis in tournaments tonight. I mean, dude. What the hell is Toronto going to do to stop this guy? Like, it's Thaddeus Young, Jonte Porter, and Chris Boucher. Salute to you 3 gentlemen that have to stop this guy. Now, the fantasy point per minute output goes down without Jaylen Brown, and I think that's been a talking point with a lot of, like, things I've read about Boston where Porzingis and Jaylen Brown have been, like, a dynamic duo together in pick and roll, pick and pop and stuff. And so his fantasy points per minute go down with Jaylen Brown off the floor, but the usage rate goes up. So I will trust the usage rate going up more than the fantasy points per minute going down because the fantasy points per minute are still over 1.1. So I like KP. DeRozan, another bowl that you can get to. 16, 19, 21, 19 shot attempts in the 4 games with Zach LaVine back. Like, shot attempts are continuously there. The peripheral stats are pretty good. If the shot falls 15 for 21, then DeMar DeRozan is going to break the slate. But if it doesn't, then middling production. So I'm fine getting to DeRozan. Kind of how I feel about the entire Chicago Bulls team.
Sure. Mid-tier options. Anybody? We talked John Collins last night. Is this case still a pretty good price for him?
Yeah, and I don't see why the minutes would go away if he continues to make shots. He just needs to continue to make shots. I would say also, all the Miami, like, I'm holding out hope that Butler gets ruled out, to be honest, because if he does get ruled out, then we have all the Miami guys back in play because they're decimated by injury. Like, Jaquez is out, Lowry's out, Love is out. They're going to start Hero at point guard, and then that leaves room for like Robinson, Highsmith, and Martin and Jovic to like just all probably play 30 minutes. So TBD on like all the Miami guys, but if Butler sits, I'm interested in all 3 of them. Probably leading, honestly, like Highsmith because he's 4,600. We actually that'd be actually decent value if Jimmy Butler was.
Yeah. Anybody else for you down here? I mean, you mentioned obviously guys where Neesmith was like be ruled out in that group there, Top and Jalen Smith. You mentioned anybody else?
No, the Indiana guys, Hachimura if Davis is ruled out, but that's it.
Okay. Center position we go then. Bam is $9,100. Jared Allen, 85. Chet Holmgren was someone you and I were pretty high on last night as well. $7,600. Vuk, Turner, Claxton, 7K range for you, my friend.
Yeah, I definitely like Bam, definitely like Allen. Like Chet quite a bit, 1.27 fantasy points per minute without SGA, right on par with the numbers with SGA. Vooch is fine in tournaments. Claxton, really, really tough matchup. Wouldn't be surprised if he's in foul trouble. Wouldn't be surprised if he has 50 fantasy points. That's the Nick Claxton experience for you. And then I don't care for much. I guess like the discussion is the value guys. Isaiah Jackson, even with Jalen Smith back, played 20 minutes in that Denver game. Didn't disappoint again. Yeah. He's just a super highly productive fantasy player when he gets on the floor. 24, 25, 34 fantasy points in the last 3 games in 17, 18, 20 minutes. So that's obviously appealing. Christian Wood, I don't know if we see Christian Wood continuously getting 20 plus minutes with if everyone plays, but if Davis were to sit, Christian Wood is one of the better values on the board. You could even see him start, even if he doesn't. Obviously, big role off the bench, regardless of what his status in the lineup is. And then it's Toronto. I did a little digging on the Thaddeus Young side. He was in massive foul trouble in that Utah game. 2 fouls early in the first, picked up a third,
5 fouls in 12 minutes.
Yeah, a minute into his second shift, 2 fouls when he checked in the third quarter and he didn't start the second half. It was a nightmare. He had been really good before that. I'm okay, exploring the Thaddeus Young thing. I mean, the 29 minutes came against Anthony Davis. Then 23 minutes came against Ivica Zubac. Those are big dudes. Those are not
Thad can still play, man. I don't know why he was getting 0 minutes, right?
He can still ball. So I'm okay getting to Thad. I'm also okay if you wanted to look at what Jonte Porter's done the last 2 games. Definitely got benefit from the Utah blowout, but 9, 6, 6, 2, and 2 in 31 minutes. That's a big outing. So there's potential value center. Same with Jared Vanderbilt. You could throw him into the mix. He's been extended a little bit lately. There's a bunch of okay value. I did write Thad up because in all likelihood, he's at least of the tier that I just mentioned, the guy that's going to start, right? He is going to start. And we saw a 29-minute ceiling against Anthony Davis. So if that is going to continue to start, that would probably be the direction I go. But
Yeah, that is one of the highest projected rostered players overall on the slate tonight. We talked about this. We joked about it, but then it became a reality. Thad Young is still a good defensive player, right? He gets steals, he can get some rocks, he'll rebound. He's not the scorer he was during his, way back days, when he was in the league, but his skill set is something that translates as you become an older player.
Right.
And you get that toughness and grind, and now he's gonna be going up against Porzingis and Al Horford tonight. Like, it's actually a decent spot for him to be that guy. Hopefully he doesn't get into foul trouble. So I can see reasons why people are certainly getting to him, and he probably has the dual positional eligibility. I would bet on FanDuel as well, like power forward, center. I can just confirm that here in a second if I'm trying to find.
He does not.
He does not. Wow.
Power forward only 4,100.
Power forward only, even better.
Can I just? This is irrelevant. But this is a Wemby thing. So Victor Wembanyama today, John, went into halftime of today's Atlanta Hawks game. They were down 30.
Yeah.
Okay. He got benched to start the second half. At halftime, he had 0 points, 3 rebounds, 3 blocks, and 2 steals.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guess what Victor Wembanyama has currently?
Well, I've been following this as well.
Okay.
So
okay.
I know what he has 17 points, 10 rebounds, an assist, 2 steals, and 4 blocks in 22 minutes.
Dude, like, there is just not people. It is just not possible that he can do, like, that people can do this stuff.
Yeah, San Antonio currently winning the second half of this game, 61-35. So there's a reason why now they're only down 8, despite winning, basically doubling up Atlanta in the second half of that game. If we're just going to talk about early games, I want to bring notice to something else. Mo Wagner did not play today. DNP. John Isaac played 16 minutes. Wendell Carter played 19 off the bench. So when John Isaac is healthy, are we getting and Wendell Carter is healthy? We're just not getting Mo Wagner in the lineup. That dude's been a bucket for a week.
Yeah. Yep. Also, Wemby stats are incorrect on ESPN.com, John. He actually has 24 points.
Okay.
12 rebounds, 5 blocks, and 2 steals per NBA.com. So, yeah.
Even better.
Yeah. Just throw. I just want to throw. Like, I know, not relevant. We're done early with the show. Like, throw out some
lineup still. So,
well, yeah, I know, but that's gonna actually probably the hardest part because, like, who the hell knows? Pretty hard to, like, actually want to use any value plays on this league.
Well, we're obviously plugging in Jason Tatum here.
Yes.
All right, and then I guess can we fit Markham in?
Keontae.
George, yeah.
Yep. Now here's what we need to decide. I think let's build 2 directions here. Let's build the Tatum Markkanen build, and then let's build a Tatum late exposure build, because we're gonna miss out if we don't. I know, but, like, what if Davis SGA get ruled out?
Yeah, I have Jalen Williams in here.
I know, but Tatum, or what if Anthony Davis SGA gets rolled out and then Jalen Williams is our answer? We're in trouble.
What?
Because that is not enough. If SGA and Anthony Davis got ruled out,
so you're saying you want LeBron in here then?
Well, I'm just saying, like, I think I'm perfectly good doing a Tatum Markkanen build.
I mean, I can do Tatum and LeBron. That's not that much difference of a breakdown.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's just try that and see how it rolls.
4,800. Probably need to get another value play in here.
Hauser, Pritchard, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, probably. I mean, Hauser's the cheapest of the group, so let's go Hauser here. Guard. We'll obviously have to flip these 2 just for James's sanity.
Thank you.
5,300 shooting guard play. You like Sexton here, so Sexton would be a $4,200 guard. $4,200 guard is not a great option for us there. Let's see. Anybody else down here?
So I think in order, the only way to make that work.
Merrill works 5K.
He works. I'm not going to play Sam Merrill 5K if Strus is in, though.
Sure. Agreed.
For sure.
All right. So who's our X then? What's our move?
LeBron. Go back to Markkanen.
And we have George. I don't know if we wanted to triple that up or not. But
We can. We can for sure.
Let's come back with Buddy.
Yeah.
Let it ride.
Yeah.
All right. So there's our non-late exposure lineup because it's just got Jalen Williams for everybody there. A little Utah stack with Jason Tatum. And then we shall build our give me your late lineup then. What do we got?
Well, I think we start LeBron. Because we're not going to have to move regardless. But just do LeBron. Well, let's start SGA. SGA LeBron. SGA in the util. Got to go SGA in the util. Pritchard, Keontae, I wish there was like a more definitive Lakers plays that I like.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We won't know until people are ruled in or out. So
yeah, I mean, but having
prints, right? Like
yeah,
getting the minutes regardless.
Yeah. I mean, I'm good with LeBron and LeBron SGA build regardless because small forward Hauser.
The problem is like you'd want to play Christian Wood, but
yeah,
what are you gonna put at center? You just play Christian Wood regardless. There's no pivot if AD's in.
There's Vanderbilt, who probably plays more than him.
If he's in,
yeah. Because they've been starting Vandy, so maybe not, right? Like it's
76 again. And then $5,600 is Jalen Smith.
Yeah, it's fine.
Gets you LeBron and SGA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Some example lineups for all of you. James has the playbook out. Ownership's been updated. That's in the Discord. If you guys have any questions for tonight's slate, find us in the Discord. Get us on Twitter. We'll be back, of course, tomorrow. Tuesday slate. Be there. Find us here at 5 o'clock Eastern time. Good luck with your lineup builds, everybody, tonight. We'll catch you all later.